Why would we be doing this course now? And who's doing it? The Marxists and the unions. Who's doing it here? The Marxists and the unions. Watch. The old hatreds are starting to come back in Europe. And that's not who we are. And I am sick and tired of being called a Nazi, because that's not the right in this country. The right in this country is small government. Nazism is National Socialist Workers Union. It's giant government. Giant government ends the same way every single time. It ends the same way. But what's coming in Europe? Nazis and communists. Let me ask you why. It's the same thing. See if this story sounds familiar. Right now, Germany is the big bank. Just last week, it was $40 billion. Then the bailout went to $145 billion. And within 1 week, it went to $1 trillion. Germans said, no. Why? Because they've been down this road before. They know what hyperinflation is. They remember their grandparents and the wheelbarrows full of money to buy a loaf of bread. You had to pay for a cup of coffee in the Weimar Republic when you received the coffee. Because if you waited after you drank the coffee price went up. No joke. They know. Now, who did they blame? World War II and the fascists came in, Adolf Hitler came in, because the Germans looked at the Jewish banker. Then they also looked at, who else? Oh, France. France and Great Britain. They forced them to pay at our bidding. We, through Woodrow Wilson, said, make them pay. Make them pay. And France said, make them pay. They actually came to the table for several times after the war and said, please, you guys can't do this. We have no way out. We're going to have to inflate our money. We said, make them pay. Last Friday, Sarkozy called Germany and Merkel and put his fist down and said, you make it $1 trillion or I pull out of the euro and we collapse all of it. She said, you're a madman. My people don't want to do this. Saturday morning, Barack Obama called. It has to be at least $1 trillion. They did it. $1 trillion. Now the people of Germany are upset. Who made them do it? The French and the Americans. Why? Because of the problems that the bankers had. You add one word, Jewish, and you've got the whole nightmare starting all over again. What are we doing? We can see the problem. I said, probably a year ago, I listened to Andy Stern at SEIU. I listened to the man's words. And he said, workers of the world unite. I'm a union. We're global now, you know. We've got to be global workers. And I said on the air, excuse me, if I have somebody who's working for $70 an hour, and then I have somebody on the other side of the planet that I also makes the same stuff and they're getting $2 a day, how do I make that work? How do I represent both? The only way to do it is to bring us down and then up. Okay? Maybe we make $10 an hour. Hey, that's sweet. What are you doing? Why are you so greedy? You know what they just said has to happen now in Europe? Germany needs to lower its standards. Germany needs to be brought down because they can't bring Portugal and Spain and everybody else up. They're leveling the playing field. And who loses? The richest country in the world loses. It's dominoes. Any of your friends that don't understand, any of your friends that say it can't happen here, they're wrong. The laws of physics don't end at our shores. They don't end. Any of the friends that say it can't happen here, prepare yourself. Because those are the same dummies that are going to come to you and say, well, when did this all happen? In 1962, there was a book written by a guy named Carroll Quigley. You should look it up. It was called Tragedy and Hope. In it, the tragedy was World War. The hope was the way to end it. The way to end it was mutually assured destruction. But they went farther. Mutually assured economic destruction. They tied, he proudly announced, all of the economies together so there would never be a world war again. Because you'd know if you destroy Europe, America would fail. If Europe destroyed the Middle East, we would all fail. That it would domino into each other. He proudly announced this in 1962, and nobody has gone back and said, wait a minute, what happens if there's a glitch in the system? What happens if everything starts to fall apart? What happens if people didn't use nuclear weapons, instead they used greed? And now there's pressure on the inside of our country. I have never seen America the way it is now. I promised my radio listeners on 9/11 this one promise, and I promise it to you now. This country will never fail by an outside force. This country will only be destroyed if we destroy ourselves. United we stand, divided we fall. We can stand together and beat it. But we have to be honest. We have to be honest. We have to face the truth of what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with, quite honestly, I never understood the free love, smoking dope, having sex in the mud, Woodstock hippies. Then I don't understand them now. But that's who's running our country now. Personally, I liked them better when they were in the mud naked having sex than running our country. But they are putting pressure on our country from the inside. Our faith is down. Our churches are emptying out. You know why? Because our churches don't stand for anything anymore. You go back into church and you demand from your pastor, your priest, or your rabbi, you go back in and say something, man. I can get this at home. Stand up. I don't know about you, but I'd much rather, if there are really no rules that make any difference, I'm sleeping in on Sunday. I can sit around eating Doritos, watching HBO in sweatpants. I'd much rather do that than go to church if everybody can make up the rules. There are things, principles that we have to reunite with. And the one thing we have to reunite with is that God is an individual God. He doesn't just talk to me. He talks to you and you and you and you. He understands individual rights. He's the creator of them. We have lost faith in faith. We have lost faith in our institutions. Do you believe in the White House? Do you believe in Congress? Do you believe in the political parties? Do you believe in big business? Do you believe in capitalism? Do you believe in the dollar anymore? What the hell is left? I'll tell you. 3 things. 1, each other. 2, our troops. 3, our cops. Now listen. They're dividing us. And I got news for you. If the people who will pull their heads out of the sand and actually look at the people that we have running our country, these are not Democrats. These are revolutionaries. They are Marxist revolutionaries. They are not Democrats. We need to make sure we reach out to the good Democrats and say, are you a revolutionary Marxist? No. Good, then stand up, man. Because the Republicans and the Democrats are being rotted from the inside. And they're all playing the old game. The game has changed. You're not playing the typical game that we all hated. You're playing a game now with, that we really, really hate.